The Minnesota Wild have a new head coach. Why do we care? Because it just so happens to be the Nashville Predators' old head coach. Plus, the Preds try to make it 6 straight tonight against Penguins. We'll talk about keys to the game and a special Tuesday plus minus today in the Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making the Locked On Predators podcast your first listen of the day every single day. We are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I want to start with a special hello to our loyal Locked On Pred heads out there, the everydayers who tune into every single show. We love you guys. We appreciate the support you give us week in, week out. I'm Nick Morgan. I'm a writer at Penalty Box Radio, and I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer at the Hockey News.
Today's episode also brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. All right, Nashville Predators, Hannah, trying to go for 6 straight tonight.
Come on.
Those old pesky Pittsburgh Penguins, the anti-heroes of the 2017 Stanley Cup playoff run.
And my life.
We got some preview coming up with that, and got a special Tuesday plus minus since we had recap to get to yesterday. All coming up in just a minute, but I feel like we should talk about
but first
the news out of Minnesota. Dean Evason, the head coach there, is out. Why are we leading a Preds podcast with that? It's because of the person they've went ahead and hired as their new head coach.
Yeah.
John Hynes.
John Hynes. Yeah. What are your give me your one word for this? What's your one word about this John Hynes hiring for Minnesota?
I was not prepared for this.
I know. I'm throwing it to you for fun.
Let's see. Confusing?
Confusing? Okay.
From a Wild standpoint.
Fair.
Well,
yeah.
Let's give me your one word and then tell me kind of your overall thoughts on this.
You know what? I'm okay. Okay. It's my one word. I wish I had something more, but I'm not sure that this evokes a lot of something more for the Wild sense. Look, here's what's real. I'm thrilled that John Hynes got another job. I have feelings about how his tenure went here in Nashville. It was not outrageously successful, granted. But I'm not surprised. You know, we know he spent some time around San Jose this season. I'm not surprised that he was offered another job. I'm curious about what Minnesota feels like they're going to get from John Hynes, and sort of what didn't they get from Dean Evason that got, I mean, obviously they were not having a wildly successful season. They, the Wild were struggling. I hate it. I hate a couple things about this. Number one, I hate for John Hynes that he's coming in the middle of a season again, because I feel like you don't get to know a head coach in his systems. Like, he's not going to get to come in and do his own thing again, the same thing that happened here in Nashville. And I think that sucks for John Hynes. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure this is going to be a huge turnaround for Minnesota until next season, if he gets to kind of do his own thing then. I don't know. What is your take on this, like, on the surface? What do you think?
Well, I mean, the first thing is, doesn't this kind of just tell you how a lot of NHL teams and people around the NHL feel about John Hynes? Like, he wasn't successful in New Jersey other than one season. I would argue he wasn't super successful in Nashville either.
Fair.
To be perfectly blunt.
Fair.
But, despite those two stints, his name, as soon as he left Nashville, was brought up in other coaching jobs. Yeah. He was brought up in the New York Rangers coaching vacancy that went to Peter Laviolette this offseason.
That's right.
There was, before Knobloch went to Edmonton, there's a lot of people said if Jay Woodcroft gets the axe, John Hynes might be an option there. So I guess that's just good on him in kind of the reflection of who he is as a person, that so many NHL teams and organizations hold him in so high regard, just without the without the record necessarily backing up that reputation.
I always feel like some of the conversations around hiring coaches is a little bit more nuanced than what people want to make it to be. Like, people are like, so-and-so didn't win a cup. Not every coach wins a cup, and not every team that does win a cup wins it because of their coach exclusively. And not every team that loses a cup because of their coaching exclusively. Like, I look at what John Hynes had here in Nashville, and my question to people is, could Andrew Brunette have made that roster a deep cup contending roster? Was John Hynes the problem, y'all?
I mean, Andrew Brunette got a worse roster than John Hynes did, arguably.
Well, but my thing is, look at what John Hynes did, or look at how this team kind of went down the stretch. You learned more about John Hynes as a coach when they sold people, when they kind of broke things up, traded Ekholm, traded Granlund, players were out with injury, which did suck. I don't wish that on any of them, but I think you saw a little bit different from John Hynes. I think John Hynes, this is my 2 cents and y'all are going to at me over it, but I think John Hynes was handed a shit sandwich and told to make a buffet.
But he didn't.
No, because it was a shit sandwich.
Well, it's also Andrew Brunette has a worse roster, and the Preds are.
Does he have a worse roster? And are the expectations
100%? Andrew Brunette this season to start the year has had. This is the worst roster Nashville has had in a decade. In 10 years,
is better. Makes a roster better than Ryan O'Reilly.
You lost,
and it's hard for me to say that sentence.
You lost Matt Duchene, and you lost Ryan Johansson. You've lost Matthias Ekholm. You lost Mikael Granlund.
The expectations for Andrew Brunette the same as they were for John Hynes?
No, because John Hynes was asked to lead the team to the playoffs.
Was this a team that could be led to the playoffs? Did Peter Laviolette, who's won a cup, lead them to the playoffs? No. Was that team that John Hynes had? Was the team that John Hynes had so good that they kept it together so that Andrew Brunette could come in and take it to the cups? No.
But that's the thing, is Andrew Brunette. It's different expectations. John Hynes came in and it was, okay, we're in a contendership window. We need to lead this team to the Stanley Cup final, or, we need to get them into contention. That was John Hynes' job, and the Predators opened the checkbooks to do that.
Did he have that team, though? Do you feel like John Hynes is the reason that team did not make a deep cup run?
No. I don't think so, but
I don't think so either.
But do you argue that this team is more equipped to make a cup run?
I think this team has more long-term potential than what John Hynes was given. And they're also, like, Andrew Brunette right now this season has not been tasked with making a deep cup run. It's just a very different thing. My thing is, everybody has blamed the lack of success last season on John Hynes. And I think, y'all, it may, John Hynes may not have been the special sauce, but John Hynes also wasn't the entree that didn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, was he really given a team that could make a deep cup run? And he was just the thing that hindered them.
I'm not saying that all of the blame goes on John Hynes for the past 4 years or whatever it was. But I'm just saying, it's like he had like David Poile was willing to help him out to be a contender. And there was a lot of stuff that was kind of self-inflicted, like, to be honest.
I don't know. You know what? It didn't go well. I think we can both agree John Hynes' time here didn't go well. But I'm trying to think, like, who did they bring in for John Hynes that was going to be the missing link? John Hynes was handed a team that, I think, this is just my opinion, but I think he was handed a team and told, this is a cup contending team. We need you to get there. And I think we can all look back in hindsight and have a really painful, honest conversation and go, you know what? On paper, that looked like a cup contending team, but I think we can all tell it wasn't.
Okay. Fair. There's one more thing that I want to keep talking about John Hynes with for in a second. And that's just his fit in Minnesota, because we know that, he kind of has a certain style here. Will it fit with the Wild? That's a conversation I want to have in just 1 second. Not done with John Hynes by any
We're
means.
not done.
Not done. First, I want to mention today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. A new NHL season brings all sorts of personalities. Is Philip Forsberg going to continue his heater and top 50 goals this year? Are the Predators going to make a surprise run to the Stanley Cup playoffs? One thing is for certain, though. You could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. To win a 10 or 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. So, for instance, Ryan O'Reilly, over under 1.5 shots tonight against the Penguins. Is Philip Forsberg going to score a goal? Over and under 0.5. Those are the types of bets that you can make on Sleeper. All you have to do is go over under on Sleeper predictions for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more in a given game. And again, you can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper if you pick 8 correct bets. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can win big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. All right, and one more thing about John Hynes to Minnesota, and that's just his fit with the Wild. Mm-hmm. We know what kind of like the John Hynes MO is, where it was, by all accounts, a very good guy, likes working sort of one-on-one with players. You hear a lot of players, talk about him positively, and, Matt Duchene, Taylor Hall over the years have talked, and so, he's somebody that's helped them refine their game a little bit. X's and O's wise, structurally sort of rigid, almost to a fault. We talk about line identity and how, players like Phil Tomasino and, Ellie Tolvanen have kind of found themselves maybe typecasted a little bit because of roles like that. And we also talk maybe about the kids' gloves and handling younger players when the roster is full. Let me stress that last part, because we saw what happened last year when the Evangelistas came back in the lineup and stuff like that. But maybe a little bit, treating some of the younger players with kids' gloves. Mentioned the Cody Glass situation last year and Phil Tomasino, more of the, this was one bad play, so we're going to sit you so you can get your mind right, and, that kind of thing. Is that what the Wild need right now, Anne? Because this is a team with a lot of young prospects. The Wild are needing to transition kind of control of the team over to them, at least until those big old Ryan Suter and Zach Parise contracts come off the books.
Right.
I mean, is John Hynes the guy that you trust is going to get Minnesota what they need?
I think it's going to be a challenge to get, and I maybe not even specifically John Hynes, I think, but because Minnesota's in a pickle.
Yeah.
They're in a pickle. But I do think it's going to be very interesting from Nashville to sit and watch. How does he manage some of those players there as compared to what was going on with some of them here? I think it's going to be really interesting. And again, I go back to like, how much of John Hynes are we going to see the remainder of the season? Or is he going to come in and try to get them to limp to the playoffs, and hope to find a way to get them somewhere close to a postseason opportunity? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how much of John Hynes do we see, and how much is it of like, we needed a shakeup, come in and try to get us back on Minnesota Wild track, and maybe a little bit more so than the John Hynes track. So it'll be interesting to see how much of John Hynes we see versus how much we see him try to get them back on track with where they were, what they were working on.
Yeah. I agree with that. I was doing the Locked On NHL show with Seth Topal this morning, and that was a
How's
fun
poor
show.
Seth holding up there?
You can listen to it on the Locked On NHL channel.
Yeah.
But he kind of said like this feels like the move of a team that knows they're not built for the playoffs, kind of expecting to go for the playoffs. Like if you're like the Minnesota Wild and you think, okay, like we're kind of stuck in the roster at least in the next few years. Maybe we sort of use this as an advantage to develop a younger coach, like the Jared Bednars of the world or the John Coopers. And he's going to have some time to kind of develop and grow. This seems more like we kind of like where we're at, and we're going to try to win right now. It kind of feels like another situation of, John Hynes having to make that certain sandwich you were talking about earlier.
Sorry about that, y'all.
Oh,
keep that out.
It's fine. So it's going to be interesting to watch for sure. And as many people pointed out, Ann, Thursday.
Oh my gosh, y'all.
Come to Bridgestone Arena. So
I don't even have word. Like, I almost don't want to cover that game, y'all, because it's going to be awkward.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about the game tonight, though, real quick. Predators take on the Pittsburgh Penguins, two teams with identical records, 10-10-0. Predators, of course, tied for the longest win streak in the NHL right now with 5 wins. And do they make it 6 tonight against Pittsburgh?
If they want me to be able to go to my family reunion next summer, yes, please, for the love of God, I need you to beat the Penguins. But I do think that the Nashville Predators, they can win this game. Of course, you always have the Sidney Crosby factor. Jake Gunsel's having a good season. Evgeny Malkin. Brian Rust is a game time decision. He's been playing with Crosby and Gunsel, so we'll see kind of if he is in or out of the lineup. But I think that this is a game, if Nashville sticks to what they know they need to be doing, it's going to be one of those games, I think, like the last couple, where it's like, look, stick to what you're doing and trust the process. Don't see the Predators blowing this one out of the water. But I really, this is a game that's winnable if they can execute things well, I think.
Yeah. Pittsburgh is weird because I'm looking up and down the roster. And, Crosby, 24 points and 20 goals. That's not downhill at all. Gensel with 23 points in 20 games played. Malkin, 18 points. On the blue line, Erik Karlsson, 18 points. Chris Letang, 11 points. Goaltending, Tristan Jarry has like a .915 save percentage. Alex Nedeljkovic has come back in the lineup and has played well.
Yeah.
So I'm like looking up and down the lineup, I'm like, wait, how are they 10-10?
Right.
And is it just the rest of the team is that bad? I mean, I know that is the answer, but like it's wild that the Penguins have, and it's kind of like the same thing last year when they missed the playoffs and everybody's like, oh, I bet Crosby and Malcolm started to show their age, and then you look and it's like, oh no, this was they're really, really good.
Yeah,
so it's just the rest of the team put together that poorly.
Yeah, it's a very interesting Penguins team where you're kind of like, where are you? I know you think that you've got like another postseason push in you, but you're going to have to show a little bit more. Everybody whose name is not Crosby. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. What's the key to the game tonight, you think, for the Predators? What do they need to do to get this win?
Like I just said, I would say Pittsburgh's depth isn't that good.
Yeah.
So for me, the key for the Nashville Predators to win this game are those second and third and fourth lines
Come on.
winning their battles, especially the third and fourth lines.
Yeah.
We know like Nashville has got some scoring pop. I would like to see, Colton Sissons step up and have a big game. Yakov Trenin, if he can kind of continue the hot streak he's on,
Yeah.
4 goals since being healthy scratched. That would be huge for Nashville as well. And that bottom line, that sort of, mix and match, combination of, Michael McCarron, Liam Foodie's kind of come in and out, whatever sort of that. Yeah. Tomasino has been down there. Whatever sort of that combination is in the bottom 6, if they can get out there and win their battles,
huge.
That I think is going to be key for the Nashville Predators to win this game.
Yeah. Yep, I would agree that. And they need to have good zone exits, because if you watch some of Pittsburgh's games lately, that's where they burn teams. Is they get turnovers when people are trying to leave the defensive zone, and they make the team pay. So just clean up that kind of stuff, and let's see what's happened, please, for the love of all that's holy, and Aunt Sally's potato salad win tonight.
Aunt Sally's got some good potato salad, I guess. We were doing a recap for the Winnipeg Jets game on Monday. So let's bring a Monday staple to Tuesday. We'll do a quick plus minus coming up in just 1 second.
First, want to let you know this episode's brought to you by our friends at Collective. They say if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Well, if you run a solo small business, you're an army of one, but you still need a CPA, a bookkeeper, separate payroll solutions, and more. So let Collective take care of the paperwork while you take care of business. Collective is the #1 financial solution for freelancers, contractors, and self-employed entrepreneurs that lets you focus on your passion, not the paperwork. Let Collective handle all of the paperwork you dread, like corporate formation and compliance, taxes, bookkeeping, accounting. They even handle payroll. And the best part, it's at a fraction of the cost of a CPA. So join the thousands of solopreneurs who have saved an average of $10,000 per year on taxes with their structure. Right now, Collective is offering 1 month free and no onboarding fee when you go to collective.com/LockedOnNHL and tell them Locked On NHL sent you. That's a $550 value for free when you go to collective.com/LockedOnNHL. And again, let them know we sent you. That's collective.com/LockedOnNHL. Tell them Locked On NHL sent you and said hello.
All right, Ann, let us do a quick Tuesday edition of the plus minus. Let's get things started with a plus. Who are you going to plus to?
Oh my goodness. We just talked about him, and it's just impossible not to give the biggest, fattest Russian plus to Yakov Trenin, my friends. 4 goals and 5 points in his last 5 games. And here's what I love about Yakov Trenin. We asked him after the last game, like, are you doing anything differently than you were at the beginning of the season? And he said, no. Doing the same thing. Just, it's about trusting the process. Haven't changed my game. I just had to be patient. So Yakov Trenin gets my biggest plus. Also because dude is hilarious. Alex Doherty, Penalty Box Radio, asked him, when you do your celebration, do you ever worry that the glass will break? And Trenin says, no, not worried. Be kind of cool if it did.
Yeah.
Love him.
Let's, we got to see it now, right?
I mean, now everybody's going to hope.
Yeah.
Everybody's
except, and I guess, unless you're sitting on the glass.
Those people may not.
Yeah, those people may not. Trenin is included in my first plus, and I'm going to go a plus to healthy scratches.
Me too. Yes.
Because remember, we mentioned Yakov Trenin, 4 goals since coming back into the lineup after being healthy scratched.
Let's go.
Luke Evangelista was a healthy scratched on Thanksgiving, comes back. Has a 3-point game. Phil Tomasino has been healthy scratched a bunch this season. He comes back in the lineup and has 4 points in 4 games. Juuso Parssinen was healthy scratched earlier this month and has come back and has played some of his best hockey of the season.
Yeah.
There's something to this, Anne. There's something to Andrew Burnett going, it's like, look, he's doing a lot well. We just kind of need him to come back and maybe just, not have pressure on him, like maybe sit back for a day, relax, kind of just work on his game and, kind of go back with sort of a refreshed mentality. And it's working.
Yeah, I love this. It's so funny you say that. That was one of my pluses too. And you look at a player like Luke Evangelista, he really kind of got a little bit away from his game in this healthy scratch. Like he said, I know that I'm confident. I know they're confident in me. You just sometimes need that little pause, that little reset. And it has really kind of taken some of that pressure off. I think Evangelista put pressure on himself, like, I'm not getting enough points. I'm not getting enough points. Step away for a minute, catch your breath, right back in. So high five for healthy scratching. I know it doesn't feel good, but sometimes things that are good for us don't taste good.
Yeah. How about a minus? Let's get a quick minus here.
All right, I am going to give a minus to something that we talked about on another episode, but quite frankly, I'm still stewing on it. And here's a minus for not taking your losses like a man. Okay, Colorado Avalanche, I know it was not the way you wanted it to go down in that last minute when the Nashville Predators beat you, but can you just take it like a man and not spend 20 minutes the next day on a podcast squawking about boards? So for me, that's a fat minus. Like, look, it's hockey, baby. Sometimes the bounces go your way. Sometimes the bounces don't go your way. Nashville's had plenty of bounces not go their way this season. Quit squawking. Move on. No fussing, no squawking, no kicking, no screaming, no squawking. Those are the rules.
You tell them that's more directed towards the fans.
Oh God, yeah. The players took it. The players seemed to take it fine. A particular announcer and some fans, not so okay.
Yeah, it was the glass that caused
the glass.
Cale Makar to screw up in the last handful of minutes there. I'm going to give a minus, Anne, to justice for Dante Fabro. Look, I know the Nashville Predators defense has been cooking lately, and I know that this 7D combination kind of worked out, but the fact that Dante Fabro has been healthy scratch for 3 games now, Dante Fabro was having a pretty good season, y'all.
Yes.
Like, he was very good defensively. His pairing with Roman Josi was among the top 20 defensive pairs in the entire NHL in terms of chance suppression. Yeah. So the defense was cooking there. Dante Fabro has come back in the lineup and had a really good year. And it kind of sucks that he's the odd man out, Anne, because he's been so solid. And boy, does that really, really let you know what the Preds think of Spencer Stastny, that they are willing to put him in this lineup consistently.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good opportunity to get Stastny some experience, but I'm with you. Fabro is sitting through no fault of his own. Like you said, this is a guy who has been really solid all season long. So I'm with you. I feel a little bit crappy about Dante Fabro being a healthy scratch. Dude's been cooking.
You feel crappy. So how about we end on one more plus?
Yeah, I'm going to give my last plus to the OG Core 3. When Barry Trotz said that he was going to reset this team, he said he's going to reset this team, and he was counting on 3 OG players. He was counting on Roman Josi defensively, Philip Forsberg offensively, and hey, Juuse Saros in net. Can we give a shout out to the OG Core 3? Because those 3 guys right now are showing exactly what Barry Trotz needed to see from them as far as being 3 guys who have been through it and are sticking around and are going to be a good foundational OG core for this team. And love the other people we've added from Trotz, love some of these young players coming up, but shout out to the OG Core 3 because you are doing exactly what this team needs you to do.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that in a rebuild or retool or whatever you call this period of the Nashville Predators, you kind of need somebody to be the constant, to kind of be the key, the big building block between the old era and the new era. And the Predators have 3 very good pillars to kind of help transition into that new era. So shout out to them, each of them playing some really good hockey right now as well, especially Philip Forsberg. So tomorrow we will have recap of Preds versus Penguins for Ann Kimmel's family reunion's sake. I hope the Predators pull out a win. Stay tuned. Tomorrow we'll have a recap for that game. Ann, where can people find your work?
You can find my work online at InsideThePreds.com. You can find me on social media at ANK_Mama on Ice.
You can find me at penaltyboxradio.com or follow me on X at _NSMorgan. That's going to do it for us on today's Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Back tomorrow with an all-new episode. We'll see you then.